we're going to look at factors in authentication. What do we mean by that? Well, there are three primary factors in how you prove you are who you say you are. It can be something you know, something you have, or something you are. So something you know, passphrase, PIN, something you have, maybe a security token of some sort, a smart card, your phone, and something you are, fingerprint, facial recognition, biometrics in other words. Under something you are a couple of subcategories. Something you do or some place you are. These have been added more recently. We're also going to be looking at these terms: multi-factor authentication, active authentication, and adaptive authentication. So first of all, something you know. Well, this is a pretty typical logon form, and username, password, those are both something that you know. Something you have, these are RSA keys that we used to use quite frequently. I still have one or two of these things laying around. When I would VPN into the company I worked for, I would need this number, and this number would change about every 60 seconds, as well as my username and password. Now we use something called Google Authenticator, and there are others besides Google. This one happens to be a Google Authenticator on your phone. It's an app you put on your phone, and then you usually have to scan a QR code, and then that on a particular website. And now every time you want to log into that website, you have to go look at this number on your phone and put that number in, and it changes every few seconds, as you can see a countdown here. Smart card with a little RFID chip in it that's powered, it has an antenna here. It's powered by radio waves, and it can give information to the machine that's reading it. So this would be another example of something you have. Something you are, of course, simple biometrics: your voice, your ear geometry, your hand geometry, face, and so on. All these various methods, and there are probably others that I'm leaving out here, but there are a ton of these, and they have varying levels of accuracy, and they also have some controversy in them as well. Something you do, as I mentioned earlier, is a subcategory of something you are. So things like keystroke dynamics, how you actually type on the keyboard, the way you swipe your screen on your phone, the way you walk, the way you sign your signature, the way you move your mouse. It could even have something to do with the way you use punctuation when you type, or the way that you spell things and the way you capitalize and that sort of thing. All of those are types of behavior that can give away who you are. Some place you are, so in this case it says Cloudflare does not recognize your IP address, and so it may not let you log in. In this case it gives you an option. In other cases it may not give you an option. So if your salesman runs off to a city they're not supposed to be at, and they try to log into your VPN, for example, you could, if you set it up, to detect that and not allow them in from a place they're not supposed to be. Multi-factor authentication is when you're using more than one of these factors. Typically more than one of these main three ones. Main three ones? Where'd that come from? Something you know, something you are, something you have. So for example, a password. If I have to have a password and a PIN and a fingerprint, well, that's two factors. I know that there are three things here, but that's not three-factor authentication. It's two-factor authentication. Password and PIN are both something you know, and fingerprint is something you are. And so it is these factors here, not the number of things that you have to do. Multi-factor, of course, can be two or more factors. Here are two terms to watch for in the future of authentication: active authentication. And in the notes I'm going to drop in a video about active authentication that is a news story by CBS News, in which they demonstrate things like swiping the screen and other things, the way you walk and so forth. And there are some problems with it, and it's really not popular yet. One problem is the battery drainage on your phone for this thing constantly authenticating you. But that's what active authentication means, that it's constantly authenticating you. And if you hand your phone off to someone else or you lose it, then it's useless to that other person, because they don't have the same characteristics, same behavioral characteristics that you do. Adaptive authentication is becoming more and more popular. It's the idea that we don't have a one-size-fits-all authentication system. We can have an authentication system that takes into account who you are, what usage you want, how much I trust you, and things like that, and have different authentication levels for different individuals. So that's it for the factors of authentication.